If you're waiting to feel rich before you believe you're doing it right, you'll wait your whole life. Because it never feels like that. Not once. Not even at the end. Right now, you're 26, working at a small furniture design studio in Austin. You're looking at an email, a raise, 4%. You don't know it yet, but this is the first of 9 moments. 9 decisions spread across 9 years that won't feel like anything while they're happening. There's a wallet in your back pocket, cracked leather, worn at the fold, the kind of wallet you'd expect on someone who's struggling. 9 years from now, that same wallet will still be there, same cracks. But everything else about your life will have quietly completely changed. And that, the wallet staying the same, is not an accident. It's the whole story. So watch closely. The moments that matter never announce themselves. A text you don't send, a form you fill out and forget, a job offer you turn down for reasons you can barely explain. By the time you understand what one of these meant, 8 more will have already happened. This is your story. It starts on an ordinary Tuesday. It starts with 4%. You work at a furniture design studio. 6 people. 1 warehouse space converted into an office. The kind of place where the coffee machine breaks twice a year and nobody replaces it fast. The email comes in on a Tuesday afternoon. Subject line, compensation update. You open it standing up, still holding a mug. 4%. Effective the 1st of next month. You do the math before you sit back down. Not because you're fast with numbers. Because you've done this math before more than once, and your brain just runs it now without asking permission. $106. That's what it comes out to after taxes, every month. You put the phone in your pocket and go back to measuring a shelf bracket. That's the whole moment. No music. No slow motion. Marisol finds out 10 minutes later. She works 2 desks over. She reads the same email and starts talking before she's even finished it. New apartment. 1 more bedroom. Closer to downtown. She's already looked at 3 listings. She's not wrong to want it. Nobody's wrong to want more space. But you've heard this exact conversation before. A different year, a different raise, a different person saying it. You've had it with yourself. 3 years ago, you got a small bump in pay and leased a car 6 weeks later. Nicer trim. Better sound system. You told yourself you'd earned it. For the next 14 months, the car payment sat in your account like a tenant who never left. Every month, tighter. Same feeling as before the raise, just with better speakers. You remember sitting in that car in a parking lot, running numbers you didn't want to run, realizing the raise was gone, not spent on anything you could point to. Just gone, folded into a slightly nicer version of the same life. So this time, you do something that takes about 11 minutes. You open your banking app, find the automatic transfer you set up 2 years ago. $80. Bump it up by 80 more. You don't call it savings. You name the account something else. Something that sounds boring on purpose. A name that doesn't invite you to think of it as money you could spend on a Friday. Then you close the app and finish measuring the shelf. Nobody sees this happen. There's no announcement. Marisol talks about her new apartment for the next 2 weeks, and you listen, and you don't feel smarter than her. You just made a different decision about what the money gets to become. Here's the part nobody tells you about raises. The money doesn't wait around to see what you'll do with it. It moves toward whatever habit already exists. If the habit is spending, it spends itself. If the habit is disappearing quietly into something you don't touch, it does that instead. You didn't decide to be careful with money that day. You decided 11 minutes was worth more than $106 a month, feeling like it never existed. That decision won't matter for years. But it's the first one. The call comes in on a Wednesday morning 10 months after the raise. You're at your desk mid-email when your phone lights up. Unknown number, local area code. You let it go to voicemail. Finish your sentence first. 4 minutes later, you listen. Your car's ready. Total comes to $790. Alternator plus labor plus a part they had to order from Dallas. You set the phone face down on the desk. Look at your screen for a second. Then pick your email back up and finish it. That's the whole moment. That's all of it. And the fact that it's all of it, that nothing else happens after this, would have seemed impossible to you 3 years ago. 3 years ago, $790 on a Wednesday was a different kind of phone call. The kind that made you sit very still. Open your banking app, stare at the number, like staring long enough might change it. You'd run the same math over and over back then. Which card had room? Whether the shop would split it into 2 payments, whether you could push rent by a few days without a fee. The answer was always some version of yes, technically. But it cost something the invoice never showed. A few days of low-grade static in the back of your head. A decision made 2 weeks later from a slightly worse place, because this decision had eaten the calm you needed for it. Now it's a number. You'll move it from one account to another before lunch. You pick the car up after work. Tap your card. On the drive home, you think about what to make for dinner. The $790 doesn't come back up. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not once. Here's what an emergency fund actually does, and most people explain it wrong. They talk about the number, 3 months of expenses, 6 if you can manage it. That's true, but it's not the part that matters. What it actually does is keep a Wednesday the size of a Wednesday, because without the buffer, $790 doesn't stay $790. It becomes that, plus interest if it goes on a card, plus 2 weeks of feeling behind, plus whatever decision gets made badly because the decision maker is tired and stressed and trying to catch up. Nearly half of people in this country can't cover a $1,000 surprise without going into debt for it. Not because they're careless, because the gap between what came in and what went out was never wide enough, long enough to leave anything sitting there waiting. You built that gap on purpose. $80 at a time, then another 80. For almost a year before this call ever came, you still carry the same wallet you had 3 years ago. Cracked at the fold. You've had chances to replace it, never have. Some habits, once they start, you don't interrupt them just because you finally could. You finish your email. The Wednesday stays a Wednesday. That's signed too. It doesn't look like anything either. Your lease is up in 6 weeks. The renewal email lands on a Sunday night. Rent's going up. $140 a month. The building added a package room nobody asked for and a gym nobody in your building uses past January. You read it twice. Not because the number shocks you, because you're already doing a different kind of math. The kind that didn't used to run automatically. You can afford the new rent. That's not the question. The question is what else that $140 could become if it went somewhere other than a package room. Your friend Devlin texts you that same week. He's moving. Bigger place, nicer part of town, a balcony he'll use maybe 4 times a year. He talks about it with the ease of someone who never really weighed the other option. And you get it. Nobody's wrong for wanting more space. You're not judging him. You've just noticed something about yourself that took a while to notice. The upgrade always feels like the reward. It rarely feels like the cost. You call your leasing office on Monday, not to complain, to ask a question nobody in your position usually asks. What would it take to sign a longer lease instead? 14 months instead of 12, in exchange for holding the rent flat. The woman on the phone sounds a little surprised. She checks. Comes back 20 minutes later. Yes. Flat rate, 14 months if you sign by Friday, you sign by Wednesday. Here's the part that's easy to miss. You didn't save money by cutting anything. You didn't eat worse or cancel something you loved. You asked a question most people don't think to ask, because most people treat the renewal number as fixed. Non-negotiable. A weather report instead of a conversation. It wasn't fixed, it was just never questioned. The $140 you would have paid for a package room you'd never use goes somewhere else instead. Same account with the boring name. It doesn't feel like a win. It doesn't feel like anything. That night, Devlin sends a photo of his new balcony. You like it. Mean it too. You're happy for him. You're just not chasing the same thing. There's a difference between denying yourself something and understanding clearly that you want something else more. One of those costs you. The other one doesn't feel like a cost at all. It just feels like knowing. You wanted the bigger place too, if you're honest. The balcony, the extra room, the version of your life that looks like progress from the outside. You just wanted the number in the boring account a little more. And you knew it before you ever picked up the phone. That's sign 3. It looks like a phone call about a lease. It's actually a phone call about what you're building instead. It happens on a Sunday afternoon, back when you were 27. Before the raise, before the lease call, you'd been meaning to open a brokerage account for a while, kept putting it off the way you put off calling the dentist. That Sunday, you finally do it. 40 minutes. You open the account, link it to your checking, set up a transfer for the first of every month. $200 into a fund that just tracks the market. You don't research it for 3 weeks. You pick the simplest option with the lowest fee and let it run. Then you close the laptop and make lunch. Since then, you've thought about that account maybe a dozen times total. Once, when Marisol talks about a stock her cousin swears is about to take off, you nod. Don't say much. You have $200 a month and a policy of not interrupting it. Once, when the market drops almost 7% in a week, you open the app, see the number is down, close it. Send your $200 on the first, same as always. Here's the part nobody explains well. When prices drop and you keep buying anyway, your same $200 buys more of the fund than it did the month before. You're quietly buying it on sale, and it never feels like that's what's happening. 2 years later, the balance is higher than what you've put in. That extra part showed up without you doing a single thing except not stopping. Devlin sold everything during that same dip. Bought back 2 months later at a higher price. He doesn't bring it up anymore. The 40 minutes on that Sunday is still the only time you've ever touched that account by hand. That's sign 4. It looks like doing nothing. That's exactly what makes it work. Not every year looks like this. 29 was messier. You buy a guitar that spring. $1,500, secondhand but barely used, from a guy who's moving to Portland. You'd wanted one since you were 19 and never let yourself have it. You don't regret it. That's the honest part. You play it for about 6 months, hard, most evenings. Then less. Then it sits in the corner of your apartment for a year, and you have to admit, quietly, that it wasn't the thing you actually wanted. You just wanted to want something that wasn't a spreadsheet for once. That same year, you forget the transfer in October. Not on purpose. You'd switched banks and the automation didn't carry over the way you assumed it would. You don't notice for 6 weeks. You catch it in late November, send double the next month to catch up, and don't beat yourself up about either one. This isn't a story about never slipping. It's a story about what happens after. You don't sell the guitar out of guilt. You don't overcorrect for 3 months to punish yourself. You just notice, adjust, and keep going. That's the part that doesn't make it into most of these stories. The slipping is normal. The noticing is the whole skill. The message comes through on a Thursday afternoon over LinkedIn from a recruiter you've never met. A studio in Denver. Fully remote, but they want you on video calls starting at 7 in the morning, your time, 3 days a week, overlapping with their hours. The pay is better. $9,000 more a year. The title sounds good enough to say out loud at dinner. You don't answer that afternoon. You go home. Make dinner. Sit with it the way you've learned to sit with things that matter, instead of answering the way your stomach wants you to. By Friday morning, the shape of it is clear. $9,000 a year sounds like a lot until you do what you've started doing automatically now. Not just looking at what a number pays, but what it costs to get it. 3 mornings a week. Starting at 7 means your mornings stop being yours. Right now you run before work, slow, no music, just you and the sound of your own breathing. That's not free time you're spending. That's a version of your day that keeps the rest of it steady. 9,000 divided by roughly 150 mornings a year comes out to $60 a morning. And what you'd be trading for that $60 is the only part of your day that belongs entirely to you before anyone else needs anything from you. You didn't used to measure things this way. 3 years ago, $9,000 would have ended the conversation before it started. More money meant winning. Anything that moved the number up was worth it, whatever it cost, because the cost never had a name back then. Something shifted without you deciding to shift it. You started asking what the hours were actually worth to you, not what they paid somebody else. You write the recruiter back Friday morning. Polite, direct, not interested right now, but you appreciate the thought. Then you pour coffee and start your day exactly the way you would have anyway. Your mom calls that weekend. You mention the offer, almost as an aside. She goes quiet for a second, then asks why you'd say no to more money. It's a fair question. She raised you on a budget that never had room for saying no to more money. Not once, not for any reason. You don't have a clean answer for her. Just tell her the mornings are worth more to you right now. She doesn't really understand it. You don't push it. That's the part nobody prepares you for. The people who love you most were built by a different math, and this decision won't always translate, even to them. Here's what's true, whether it translates or not. Time is the only thing on this list that can't be earned back later with a bigger paycheck. Money can always be rebuilt. Wednesday mornings at 28 don't come around twice. You kept your mornings. Nobody clapped for that either. That's sign 5. Something about this one is different before it even starts. There's no crisis, no number that stings, no decision you have to defend to anyone at dinner. Just a form, sitting in your inbox that you've put off opening for 3 weeks. You're 31 now. Your studio added a benefits option this year, a meeting with a financial advisor, once a year, free, 20 minutes. Most people at your office skip it, you almost do too. You book it anyway, mostly out of guilt. The advisor's name is Okafor. Calm voice, doesn't try to sell you anything in the first 5 minutes, which is already more than you expected. She asks you 3 questions. Do you have a will? Do you have term life insurance? Who's listed as your beneficiary on the account you opened 4 years ago? You don't know the third one. You check. It's an old address, defaulted in wrong. You fix it in under a minute. Okafor pauses before moving to the next form. If something happened tonight, she says, who would need access first? You don't have an answer ready. You give her your sister's name, mostly because someone has to have one, and realize as you say it that you've never actually thought about this before. You sign up for the term life policy before the call ends. Here's the part that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't felt it. None of this feels like progress. There's no number that goes up. If anything, it feels like admin, like something you do and immediately forget you did. But there's a kind of spending that feels like safety and isn't, and a kind of paperwork that feels like nothing and actually is safety. You've noticed the difference lately, mostly by accident. The new couch Devlin bought last spring, the one on the payment plan, felt like comfort walking through his door. It didn't change anything about what would happen to his family if something went wrong tomorrow. It just felt like it did. The form you filled out this afternoon feels like nothing at all. It changes everything about what would happen to the people you love if tomorrow went wrong. Comfort and protection aren't the same thing. They just get sold to you using the same language. You hang up with Okafor and go back to your email, like the call never happened. There's no moment of pride here. Nobody to tell. You just know something now that you didn't know an hour ago. The boring stuff is usually the real stuff. The stuff that photographs well rarely is. That's sign 6. It doesn't look like anything, because being boring was always the point. There's a number you don't like thinking about, so for a long time, you didn't. $2,200, sitting on a credit card since you were 24, left over from a stretch when your car needed brakes and your rent went up in the same month and something had to give. You paid the minimum for a while, then paid it down slowly. Then mostly forgot it was there, the way you forget about a low hum in a room until someone points it out. You're 32 now. 2 things happen in the same week that make you look at it again. First, Devlin mentions he's been putting extra money into his retirement account instead of paying off his own car loan faster. A loan sitting at 4%. Sounds smart, the way he explains it. Growth versus debt. Numbers on a chart. Second, you check your own credit card statement and see the actual rate for the first time in a while. 23%. Those 2 numbers next to each other change something. 4% and 23% are not cousins. They're not even in the same conversation. Here's the part nobody says out loud enough. Paying off debt at 23% is the same thing as earning 23% guaranteed, with no risk, no market to time, no luck involved. There's no investment you could reasonably chase that beats a guaranteed return like that. So instead of splitting your extra money 3 ways that month, you put almost all of it toward the card. $600 in one shot, more than you've ever paid at once. It doesn't feel like winning. There's no number going up to watch, just a number going down, quietly, on a screen you don't especially enjoy looking at. 3 months later, it's gone. Zero balance. You don't screenshot it. Don't tell anyone. You just notice the next month that the payment you used to make automatically isn't there anymore, and the money it used to eat is just sitting in your account instead, with nowhere urgent to go. That extra room is the actual prize, not the moment the balance hit zero. The month after, when nothing happened and nothing had to. Devlin's still making that 4% car payment, still adding to his retirement account on top of it, and technically, he's not wrong. But you've noticed something he hasn't said out loud yet. He checks his car loan balance more than he checks his retirement account. The debt still has a grip on his attention, even if it doesn't have one on his money. You don't have that hum anymore. The 23% is gone, and so is the low, quiet tax it used to put on every other decision you made. That's sign 7. It doesn't look like progress. It looks like a debt just going away. You're 33 now. You're standing in the lobby of your building, waiting for an elevator that's stuck on 12 for no reason anyone's ever explained. You've got nothing to do for maybe 90 seconds. So you open an app you check maybe 4 times a year, not your checking account, not your brokerage, the one that pulls everything together into a single number. You haven't looked at it since sometime last fall. The number loads. You do the subtraction in your head against the number you remember roughly seeing last time. $19,000. That's the difference. Give or take. You don't smile. Don't feel the urge to tell anyone. You just lock the phone and put it back in your pocket because the number feels quieter than you expected it to. Nothing happened in those months that felt like $19,000 worth of anything. No bonus. No inheritance. No lucky month where everything lined up, just the usual months. The transfer on the 1st. The card that got paid off and stayed paid off. The retirement account doing whatever it does without you watching. The elevator finally comes. Somebody steps in behind you and glances at your screen for half a second, the way strangers do, and looks away. They have no idea what they just saw. Here's the thing most people never get told clearly enough. Checking your account balance tells you what came in this month. It doesn't tell you anything about where you're actually headed. Net worth is different. It's not a balance, it's a direction. About half the adults in this country couldn't tell you their own net worth if you asked them right now. Not because they don't care. Because nobody ever taught them it was a number worth tracking, and because the first time you do check it, the number usually feels too small to matter. But $30,000 moving upward, quietly, every few months, is a completely different thing than $30,000 just sitting there. One is a snapshot, the other is a current. Marisol mentioned once, almost as a joke, that she has no idea what she's worth on paper and has never checked. She laughed when she said it. The laugh people use when something makes them a little uncomfortable and they want to get past it fast. You just nodded and let it go. You don't check that number to feel proud. You check it because it's the only place where every small, invisible decision from the last few years finally adds itself up in one place. You get to your floor, put the phone away, and start your day exactly like any other. That's sign 8. It looks like 90 seconds in an elevator. It's actually 4 years, arriving all at once. This one doesn't start with a number. It starts with a feeling you notice halfway through a sentence you aren't saying. You're 34, at a dinner with people you went to college with. 6 of you around a table that's too small for the plates on it. Someone brings up a house. Another person mentions a new truck, financed, nothing down, drove it off the lot that weekend. There's a specific energy at the table. The good kind, the kind people have when they're excited about something they just bought. You used to feel a small pull at moments like this. Not envy exactly. More like a low hum of needing to say something that proved you were doing fine too. You notice, mid-dinner, that the pull isn't there tonight. It's just genuinely quiet. Someone asks what's new with you. You say work's good, mention a project at the studio, and that's it. You don't bring up the account. Don't mention the debt that's gone, or the insurance form, or any of it. Not because you're hiding it. Because none of it is the kind of thing that translates well across a dinner table, and you've stopped needing it to. Here's the part that's strange to explain, even to yourself. 9 years of small decisions don't just build a number somewhere. They build a version of you that stops needing the table to notice. Each quiet choice didn't just move money around. It moved you. That's the part almost nobody talks about. People talk about compounding like it only happens to money. It happens to you too. Every decision that didn't get noticed becomes eventually a person who doesn't need to be noticed for it. Devlin drives you home after dinner in the new truck. Talks about the payment, the interest rate, how it's fine. Really, it's fine. You just listen. Don't say the thing you could say about the rate. You get dropped off, walk inside, and empty your pockets onto the counter the way you do every night. Keys. Phone. The wallet. Same one. 11 years old now. Cracked clean through the fold at this point, held together more by habit than leather. You've had money to replace it for years. Just never have. You don't think about that as some kind of statement. It's just what's left after 9 years of choosing the quiet thing over the visible one. Over and over, until the choosing stopped being a choice and just became who you are. That's sign 9. It doesn't look like a decision at all anymore. That's exactly how you know it's compounded. The wallet sits on the counter that night, same as it has for 11 years. Cracked at the fold, corners worn soft, the kind of wallet that makes strangers assume the wrong thing about the person carrying it. They'd still be wrong. Because none of what happened over these 9 years ever showed up on the outside. It happened in a form filled out on a lunch break. A phone call about a lease, a guitar you don't regret buying, and a transfer you didn't forget twice. A job you didn't take. 2 miles away in the same city, a 26-year-old named Priya is closing her laptop for the night. She got an email that afternoon. A raise. 4%. She hasn't decided yet what the extra $100 a month is going to become. She doesn't know it yet, but that decision is the first of 9.